The California sun blazed over the sprawling campus of California University, painting the red brick buildings gold and warming the palm trees that swayed lazily in the breeze. The first week of the semester always carried a special energy: new faces, new hopes, and stories waiting to be written. Emily Carter, 19, walked across the quad with a nervous smile. She was new here, a small-town girl from Oregon who'd earned a scholarship to study literature. Her chestnut hair fluttered in the breeze, and a stack of books was clutched to her chest like armor. She wasn't used to the crowd, the noise, or the California confidence that seemed to shimmer around everyone. She took a deep breath and whispered to herself, greater than, "Okay, Emily. Just another day. You belong here." As she searched for her classroom, her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate. "Sophie, good luck. Bookworm, don't fall
For a frat boy today." Emily rolled her eyes and smiled. She didn't plan to fall for anyone. Not here. Not when she'd worked so hard to get to this place. But fate has its own timing. The campus coffee shop, Brewed Awakening, was buzzing with morning chatter. Students lined up for espresso shots and lattes before classes. Emily, late and half asleep, rushed to grab her first caffeine dose of the day. Just as she reached for her cup at the counter, crash! Hot coffee splashed. Papers flew. And she gasped. Across from her, a tall guy in a gray hoodie held up his hands, looking horrified. "Oh my God. I'm so sorry," he said quickly, grabbing napkins. Emily blinked, wiping the coffee from her sleeve. "It's okay, no burns, I think." He laughed softly, relief flooding his face. "That's good. I'm Jake. And apparently, I'm a danger to caffeine lovers everywhere." She couldn't help but smile. Emily, and
apparently, I'm too clumsy to dodge coffee disasters. They both laughed, a small, awkward, genuine laugh that hung in the air longer than it should have. He offered to buy her a new drink, and when their names were called together, Jake and Emily, something about the way it sounded made her heart skips. That night, Sophie dragged Emily to a freshman mixer at the student center. Music pulsed, lights flickered, and laughter echoed off the walls. Emily wasn't really the party type. She preferred books and quiet corners, but Sophie insisted she experience college properly. While Emily sipped soda near the back, a familiar voice called out, "Hey, coffee girl." She turned and there he was, Jake. But this time, he wasn't wearing a hoodie. He was on stage, holding a guitar. "You play?" she mouthed. He grinned. "You'll see." When he started singing a soft, soulful version of Perfect by Ed Sheeran, the crowd swayed, and Emily felt something shift inside her. His voice carried something raw, something real. And for a brief moment, their eyes met across the crowd. It wasn't just music anymore. It was connection.
Over the next few weeks, they kept running into each other at the library, in the cafeteria, and somehow, always near that same coffee shop. Jake turned out to be a sophomore, majoring in music production. He had an easy charm, the kind that made everyone around him feel comfortable. Emily, quiet and thoughtful, balanced his energy perfectly. They started studying together, sharing playlists, and meeting for late-night walks around the campus lake. "You know," Jake said one evening, tossing a pebble
into the water. "You're different. Most people here are trying to impress. You just ... or." Emily smiled softly. "That's because I don't know how to impress anyone. You already do," he replied, his voice low. Something unspoken lingered between them after that. Tension too gentle to be awkward, too deep to be ignored. Things weren't always
perfect. Jake's ex-girlfriend, Leela, still hung around the music department. Beautiful, confident, and popular, she made sure Emily noticed her. "You're hanging out with Jake a lot," Leela said one afternoon. Her smile sharp. "Just be careful." He single quotes as ... complicated. Emily tried to shrug it off, but the words lingered. Later that week, when Jake missed their study session without a text, she couldn't stop wondering, was Leela right? The next day, he showed up breathless, holding two coffees. "I'm so sorry. My project ran late in the studio. I should have called." Emily smiled faintly. "It's okay. Just don't disappear like that." Jake grinned. "Never. I'm not going anywhere." And for the first time, she believed him. The weeks after midterms rolled by in a blur of classes, coffee, and late-night talks. Autumn crept into Los Angeles, not the golden leaves of the East Coast kind, but soft, cool evenings and skies streaked with pink. Emily and Jake had become inseparable. People around campus had started noticing. "You two are definitely a thing," Sophie teased one morning, grabbing a muffin from the cafeteria tray. "We're just friends," Emily said quickly, though her heart disagreed. Every morning, Jake waited for Emily outside her dorm. Two coffees in hand, one black for him, one vanilla latte for her. "Fuel for the scholar," he'd say, handing it over. They'd walk together to class, laughing about professors, sharing music, or complaining about the cafeteria food. It was easy, warm, and felt right. But lately, Emily noticed small changes: the way Jake's gaze lingered when she spoke, how his smile softened when she laughed, and how her heartbeat picked up whenever he stood too close. It wasn't just friendship anymore. One evening, as they sat under the massive oak tree near the Arts Building, Jake strummed his guitar softly while Emily read. The air smelled faintly of rain, and the campus lights shimmered in the distance. Do you ever think about what comes next? After college?" She looked up, meeting his eyes.
Sometimes, I just want to write stories that make people feel. Jake plucked another note on the guitar. "I want to make music that matters, the kind that stays." Their dreams felt fragile and beautiful, like stars they could almost touch. "Maybe one day," Jake added quietly, "we'll both make something that lasts." Emily smiled. "Maybe we already are." Every fall, California University hosted a week-long arts and music festival: concerts, open mix, poetry slams, and film nights. It was the biggest event of the year.
Jake signed up to perform with his band, and Emily volunteered to help organize the literature booth. On the evening of the main concert, fairy lights glowed across the courtyard, and laughter floated in the air. Jake's band took the stage. The crowd erupted. When the first chords began, Emily stood near the front, eyes fixed on him. His voice carried through the night, steady and rich. Then came the surprise. The song changed tempo, softer, more intimate. "This one," Jake said into the mic, "is for someone who reminds me why I write music." The melody was new, raw, tender, and full of things he'd never said aloud. Emily's
chest tightened. Every word felt meant for her. But before she could let that thought settle, she saw Leela step onto the side of the stage, smiling up at him, and suddenly, doubt returned. After the show, Jake found Emily near the fountain. "Hey, did you hear the new song?" he asked, eyes shining. "Yeah," she said softly. "It was beautiful." "You think so?" "Yeah, it sounded personal." He hesitated, reading her tone. "It was, but not in the way you think." Before he could explain, someone called his name: "Leela," waving from across the crowd. Jake sighed. "Give me 5 minutes. She nodded, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. 5 minutes turned into an hour, then a day, then 2. Jake got busy with rehearsals, studio time, and Leela's reappearance. He texted Emily, but his messages felt shorter, distracted. Sophie noticed first. "He's drifting." "You okay?" Emily forced a laugh. "It's college. People get busy." But inside, she missed him: the morning coffees, the study sessions, the quiet comfort of just being seen. A week later, she found him sitting alone by the music building, head down, earbuds in. She hesitated before walking over. "You disappeared," she said lightly. "I know. I messed up." Leela wanted to talk, and it got complicated. Complicated how? "She wants us back together, but I told her no. I just needed to clear things up." Relief washed over Emily, followed by guilt for doubting him. "You don't owe me an explanation," she said softly. "Maybe not," Jake replied, "but I wanted to give one. You matter to me, Em." The way he said it, calm, honest, made her chest ache in the best way.
A few days later, the skies opened up. Rain poured down, drenching the campus. Emily ran across the quad, clutching her notebook, when Jake's voice called from behind. "Emily, wait." He caught up, soaked head to toe, laughing as thunder rolled. "You're insane," she said, wiping rain from her face. "Maybe, but I didn't want you to walk alone." They ducked under the library awning, shivering and laughing. Jake looked at her, water dripping from his hair. "You ever get that feeling where everything's wrong, but somehow perfect?" Emily blinked. Like right now? Exactly. The rain softened. Their laughter faded. The world around them seemed to hush. Jake's hand brushed hers tentative, searching. She didn't pull away. He whispered. I don't know what this is, but I don't want it to end. Her heartbeat drowned out the rain. Then don't let it, she said softly. And then, finally, he kissed her. It wasn't planned or perfect, it was soaked, messy, and real. The kind of kiss that felt like the start of everything. For days afterward, everything felt different. The world seemed lighter, colors sharper. They still met for coffee, still teased each other. But
now his hand found hers without hesitation. So Sophie said one morning, grinning, friends, her. Emily blushed. Okay, maybe more than friends. Took you long enough, Sophie said, laughing. But love in college wasn't a fairy tale. Classes
piled up. Jake's band got an offer to record in San Francisco. And Emily's writing professor nominated her for a national short story contest. Their dreams were taking shape, just not always in the same direction. One night, as they sat under the stars outside the dorm, Jake traced circles on her palm. What if I go to San Francisco for a few months? He asked quietly. Then I'll cheer you on from here, she said, smiling though her chest tightened. And you'll keep writing. Always. They promised it wasn't goodbye, just a chapter break. Jake leaned in, pressing his forehead to hers. You're my favorite story. She smiled. And you're my favorite song. The day Jake left for San Francisco, Los Angeles felt quieter. Emily stood by the campus gate, hands shoved into her sweater sleeves as his bus pulled away. He'd hugged her tight, kissed her forehead, and said, It's just a few months, we'll make it. She'd smiled and said, Of course we will. But when the taillights disappeared, she felt something sink deep inside her chest, not doubt, but longing. Days turned into weeks. Their calls became shorter. Messages came at odd hours. Jake's band was recording late into the night, and Emily was buried in writing assignments. At first, it was exciting sharing their new worlds through texts, sending silly photos, cheering each other's wins. But slowly, the calls turned into quick miss you messages. The laughter faded into silence.
Sophie noticed it right away. She said one evening, You're not yourself lately? Just tired, Emily replied, closing her laptop. No, you're lonely. Emily didn't argue because Sophie was right. Jake was chasing his dream, and she was proud of him, but she missed him in all the small ways. His laugh, his bad coffee jokes, the way he always carried an extra pen because she always lost hers. She poured her heart into writing instead. Her short story, The Sound of Coffee and Rain, was accepted for the National Student Writers Contest. It was inspired by Jake, by their first meeting, their laughter, their love. But as the awards ceremony approached, he still hadn't said when he'd return. One Friday night, her phone buzzed. Jake's name flashed on the screen. Hey, stranger, she answered, trying to sound light. He said, his voice softer than she remembered. Can we talk? Her stomach tightened. Sure. What's up? The label wants us to extend the recording. Another 2 months. Silence. The kind that sits heavy between heartbeats. That's great, she said finally, forcing a smile he couldn't see. You're doing amazing, Jake. I am, but he hesitated. I feel like I'm losing you. Her throat burned. You're not losing me. We're just in different places right now. Different places doesn't mean different hearts. She closed her eyes, letting the tears fall quietly. Then promise me you'll come back when it feels right. I promise, he said. And when I do, I'll make it up to you. I'll write a song just for you. They talked until her phone battery died. The conversation full of both love and the ache of distance. 2 months later, the contest night arrived. The auditorium was filled with students, professors, and judges. Emily sat near the stage, heart pounding, hands trembling as she clutched her note cards. When her name was called, winner of the National Short Story Contest, Emily Carter, for The Sound of Coffee and Rain, she froze for a moment before Sophie nudged her. Go. That's you. As she walked to the podium, The applause blurred around her. She looked out over the crowd and smiled through tears. "This story," she said into the mic, voice steady, "is about how love doesn't always start in grand ways. Sometimes it begins with spilled coffee and unexpected laughter. And even when distance grows, the right hearts always find their way back." The audience cheered. Cameras flashed. Emily bowed her head, blinking back tears. A familiar voice echoed from the back of the hall. "Guess I missed the coffee part, but I'm here for the ending." Emily froze. Jake. He was standing there, in a black jacket and a shy smile, holding a bouquet of daisies, her favorite.
After the ceremony, they met outside under the same oak tree where they'd spent countless evenings. The night air was cool, and fairy lights from the auditorium glowed softly behind them. "You came back," she whispered. "I told you I would," he said. "The band finished early, and I couldn't miss your big moment. You read the story." "Twice," he said, grinning. "You made me sound way more romantic than I am," she laughed, brushing a tear away. "Maybe I just wrote what I saw." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I've been in rooms full of noise, lights, people cheering, but nothing ever felt as right as this. You're not just saying that because I won. No, I'm saying that because I finally know what I want." He pulled out a small notebook, worn, scribbled, the kind he always carried. "I finished the song," he said softly. "It's called When Hearts Collide. You named it after us." He finished. "You and me. The accident that wasn't one." He began to hum the tune quietly, and she felt tears rise again. The lyrics were simple, about coffee and rain, about friendship turning into love, about the spaces between dreams where two hearts still met halfway. When he finished,
Emily was crying and smiling all at once. "It's perfect," she whispered. "You're perfect," he said. And then, like the universe had been waiting for this moment, he leaned in and kissed her, slow, steady, full of every word they hadn't said over the months apart. Weeks later, things began to fall into a beautiful rhythm again. Jake started performing locally while finishing his degree. Emily's story was published in the campus literary journal. Their names became something of a legend at California University. The writer
and the musician who fell in love over coffee. They spent lazy Sundays writing and composing together at the same coffee shop where it all began. Sometimes, Jake played his guitar softly while Emily read drafts of her stories aloud. "You know," Jake said one afternoon, "I think we make a good team." "You mean, as in music and words?" she teased. "No," he said, smiling. "As in life." Emily laughed, leaning her head against his shoulder. "You're cheesy, and you love it," he said, kissing the top of her head. She did.
2 years later, the campus buzzed again. Graduation day. Students in black gowns posed for photos under palm trees, laughter filling the air. Emily stood with her parents, holding her diploma. When she turned, Jake was waiting for her near the stage, wearing his gown too, guitar slung across his back. "We did it," he said, grinning. "We really did." He handed her a folded piece of paper. "Open it." Inside was a lyric sheet, When Hearts Collide final version, and under it, a handwritten note, "For the girl who turned my mistakes into music, and my music into love." Tears welled in her eyes. "Jake." He smiled. "I meant every word." The announcer called his name to perform one final song for the graduating class. Jake took the stage, adjusted the mic, and looked straight at Emily in the crowd. "This one's for all of us," he said, "for every mistake that turned into something right." And as he sang, "When Hearts Collide Under the California Sun," Emily realized something. This wasn't the end of their story. It was only the beginning of a new one. A cozy cafe in downtown Los Angeles. The sign outside read, "Hearts Collide, Coffee and Stories." Inside, the air was warm with the smell of espresso and the sound of soft acoustic music. Emily sat behind the counter, editing a manuscript, while Jake played his guitar near the window. Their small cafe had become a haven for artists, writers, and dreamers, a place built on everything they once were and everything they still hoped to be. "You know," Emily said, looking up from her laptop, Sometimes I still can't believe all this started with spilled coffee. Jake laughed. Best accident of my life. He leaned over the counter, kissing her cheek. So, Mrs. Carter Wilson, he said teasingly, what's next on the menu? She grinned. Love, always love.